Hello and welcome to the fourth video for the online training modules for Odyssey Inclusive coaches. Before you attend a live training session, we ask that you complete all 5 brief modules that provide Odyssey Inclusive coaches with important information about the program before beginning your coaching journey. My name is Dr. Lynn Larson and I am the program developer and director for Odyssey Inclusive. I'll be guiding you through the 5 modules and I'm always available to answer any questions you may have. Each state hosting Odyssey Inclusive also has a program coordinator who will be your main point of contact for this season. This part of our training is all about the spontaneous portion of the tournament. At every competition, teams will perform their long-term solution and solve a spontaneous problem, which is when teams are given 10 to 15 minutes to solve a problem together on the spot. At the tournament, the coach will be brought into the spontaneous competition room where they can review the problem and decide which of the 3 accommodated options is best for their team. The team is then brought in, the problem is explained, the team can ask questions, then they are given time to showcase their teamwork and problem solving. There are 3 types of spontaneous problems teams may be asked to solve: verbal, verbal hands-on, or hands-on. All spontaneous problems for Odyssey Inclusive teams will be accommodated appropriately so teams will have a positive experience working together. All team members are welcome to participate in the spontaneous part of the competition. Practice spontaneous problems have been created for Odyssey Inclusive. Once the team is comfortable working with one another and has started their long-term problem work, it is a good idea to practice at least one spontaneous per team meeting. It's a great way for the team to learn how to work with each other and to prepare for that part of their tournament experience. So let's talk about the different kinds of spontaneous problems. The first one we'll go over is verbal spontaneous. Verbal spontaneous problems require teams to give verbal responses or through any means such as hand gestures, sign language, PECs, or through communication devices. The responses may incorporate improvisation or dramatization. There are no hands-on building elements incorporated in a verbal solution. In a verbal problem, there is typically think time and response time. Each team member gives a separate response one at a time. Often the team members will get several turns until time or their turns run out. Team members may not talk to each other during think time or help each other answer during response time unless given permission to do so when the judges explain the problem. Scoring in verbal is the teams are provided feedback about their responses, teamwork, and enthusiasm. An example of a verbal spontaneous problem might be, you discover mice in your home. How do you get rid of them? Common responses would be get a cat, use mouse traps, or chase it away. More creative responses may include lay a trail of cheese to a neighbor's house or build a mouse wheel for them to play on outside. So some things to keep in mind for your team if they get a verbal spontaneous problem. Be sure they communicate clearly, using whatever means is appropriate for them. Help them to listen to each other to inspire their own creative responses, teamwork. Encourage them not to repeat answers, use wordplay, make jokes, rhyme, sing, and generally have fun. It's always a good idea to debrief with the team after completing a practice spontaneous problem to discuss what went well and what they might do differently the next time. It's also totally fine to practice the same spontaneous problem more than once. This gives them an opportunity to practice the problem in different ways. Right, let's talk about the next type of spontaneous problem, which is called verbal hands-on spontaneous. Verbal hands-on spontaneous problems present teams with tasks that are a combination of creating a tangible solution and including some type of verbal or other means of communication component. For example, teams may be asked to create a new product with materials provided and then perform a short commercial selling that item. There are 2 main types of verbal hands-on problems. Create it and talk about it is the first one. This type of spontaneous has 2 parts. In part 1, teams use provided materials to create objects or solutions. Whatever is created in part 1 will be the focus of responses given in part 2. During part 1, it is important that team members talk, brainstorm, and come up with an idea or theme as a whole. The second kind is called touch it, talk about it. This type of problem has think time and response time. Materials or a picture of some type are provided that team members will incorporate into their responses. An example of this type of problem would be, on your turn, select 2 items from the table and use them to describe the best or worst birthday party. Possible items on the table could include a plastic cup, a pinwheel, a birthday candle, or a birthday napkin. In hands-on, these types of problems require teams to use materials to develop or build a solution for the problem. Typical materials can include things commonly found around school or home, such as straws, stir sticks, mailing labels, paper clips, cotton balls, string, and others. Only the materials provided can be used to solve the problem. Team members may talk and work together unless the problem says they cannot. These problems may have a part 1, build and practice, and a part 2, work for score, or they may only have one time period where the teams build, practice, and do something for score. No matter what the type of problem, keeping track of time is important. Teams are provided feedback about what they made, their teamwork, and their enthusiasm. An example of a hands-on spontaneous problem would be for a team to move balls from one basket to another. Level 1 would have the team pass the balls from one team member to a basket, from one team member to the other. Level 2 would give the team various items to move the balls from one basket to the other, such as tongs, a ladle, a paper plate, 2 forks, and so on. Level 3 would provide the teams with various household materials, such as pipe cleaners, paper cups, straws, tongue depressors, and the team would build a device or devices to move the balls from one basket to the other. Teams will be provided feedback about what they made, their teamwork, and enthusiasm. And we just talked about that sample problem. So some questions for the team to think about. Can we talk and work together? Is this a 1 or 2 part problem? Which items can we alter and which ones can't we alter? All right, developing spontaneous skills. Spontaneous activities are a great way to help the team learn to start practice and get their brains engaged for the long-term solution work. They help team members become comfortable working with each other and with brainstorming and creative use of materials. You will want to include some sort of spontaneous practice in every team practice if you have time. You can use spontaneous problems to limber up minds for long-term or style work, or you can use spontaneous verbal problems as focused brainstorming for the long-term problem. For example, if your long-term problem requires a superhero, you can ask the team to name superheroes and what makes them a superhero. As a coach, when first practicing spontaneous, you can omit the time limit or let the team explore using materials in a general way, such as asking everyone to build a tower with the materials, or simply do some brainstorming to a verbal problem without any thinking or response time. There are many websites offering many practice spontaneous problems, and you can find a list of those websites on our Odyssey Inclusive website. So, some spontaneous tips for practicing. Let team members know that there isn't just one correct answer. Each team member needs to be prepared for multiple turns and have more than one answer. We want team members to think beyond the box. Excuse me. While it is allowed for kids to come up with ideas based on an earlier response, which is called piggybacking, team members need to know they cannot repeat answers or help each other. Everyone should be involved and have a role, but don't have too many hands trying to create the solution at the same time, or grabbing at materials. Team members need to be able to work together and share. Team members may have many strengths. They may see a solution, others are good builders, some are good at reading the team copy of the problem, and others are good at keeping an eye on time. So you have now finished section 4 of your online coach training. And just remember, your state's Odyssey Inclusive Program Coordinator is your main point of contact this season, but you can always send me an email if you have questions at odysseyinclusive@odysseyofthemind.com. We are going to have those live coach training sessions this season, and we have the 10-week coaching plan and the Odyssey Inclusive Coach Passport, as well as our website. So your next steps are to take the short quiz about this spontaneous training via Google Forms linked on the PDF version of this section's materials. And then you're ready to move on to the last section of this training, which is all about tournament time. Again, thank you so much for volunteering to be an Odyssey Inclusive coach, and we can't wait to see you and your team at a tournament.